अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य रूप विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद् भक्तिवेदांत पावन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य रूप विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य रूप विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद् श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य रूप विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्रीमद् श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य रूप महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस प्रभुजी महाराज की जय। नित्य रूप वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ प्रभुजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गोपाल शारद वृंद की जय। नामचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी गमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंद श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All right. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapara Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha. Oops. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratrishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Etadalai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedustam Sarva Bhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Tava Narayanam Namaskritam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Ridantasto Yabhadrani Vidunati Suritsatam. Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina iti vigyaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam. Bhakta vihina aparadha lakshay kshiptastakama dittarangamate kripa mai tvam sharanam prapana vrinde namaste charanarvindam. Shivran Mukhi. एको लाइव वीडियो चल से अच्छा एक सेकंड सॉरी गाइस 1 सेकंड श्री कृष्ण एक सेकंड Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. There's somebody at my door. He's leaving right now. I'll be 1 second.
ব্যাগটা একটু রেখে গেলাম আপনার এখানে।
হ্যাঁ,
ঠিক আছে
ঠিক আছে।
আচ্ছা
এটা
পৃষ্ঠা নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে, ঠিক আছে?
ঠিক আছে।
এরকম ভাবে
ঠিক আছে।
পৃষ্ঠা নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে 1 2
ঠিক
3।
আছে।
ঠিক।
হ্যাঁ,
আমি কাকদ্বীপ চলে যাচ্ছি, ঠিক আছে?
আচ্ছা।
প্রোগ্রাম আছে।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। ঠিক আছে।
ধন্যবাদ।
Hare Krishna. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Where am I? Okay, so yesterday, Jai and Vijay, after they were cursed, they were in. Brahma explained the whole reason why the earth got so dark. Why the whole universe was dark. And yeah, Diti, she had these 2 demons in her womb, and she knew that they were going to give disturbance to the demigods and everybody, and so she didn't want to give birth to them, so she held them in her womb for 100 years. But then finally, she gave birth, and there's all these inauspicious omens. So, after their birth, mountains, the mountains and the earth shook. There was fire everywhere. There's thunderbolts and meteors fell. There were many inauspicious planets appeared along with comets. Harsh winds blew with dust as their flags, storms as their armies, and uprooted gigantic trees. Dense clouds covered all the luminaries in the sky, spreading darkness. Ocean, along with the inhabitants, wailed loudly. Rivers and lakes with withered lotuses were agitated. Eclipses of the sun and the moon with halos. Thunder without clouds. Sounds of chariots from mountain caves. She-jackals vomiting fire yelled inauspiciously along with the cries of jackals and owls. Dogs cried like singing and weeping. Asses ran in herds, striking the earth with their hoofs and wildly braying. Birds flew from their nests. Cows passed urine and stool. Frightened cows yielded blood instead of milk. Clouds rained pus. Image of gods and the temples shed tears. Trees fell down without a blast of wind. Inauspicious planets, Mars, Saturn, etc., with retrograde motion surpassed the auspicious ones and came in conflict with one another. And so that's where we read up to. Now, so that's 15. Okay. Drishtva nayangscha mahotpatam atatatva vida praja brahmaputran rite bhita menire vishvasamplavam. Marking these and many other omens of evil times, everyone but the 4 sage sons of Brahma, who were aware of the fall of Jai and Vijay and of their birth as Diti's sons, was seized with fear. They did not know the secrets of these portents, and of these omens, and thought that the dissolution of the universe was at hand. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, the laws of nature are so stringent that it is impossible for the living entity to surpass their enforcement. It is also explained that only those who are fully surrendered to Krishna and Krishna consciousness can be saved. We can learn from the description of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that it is because of the birth of the 2 great demons that there were so many natural disturbances. It is to be indirectly understood, as previously described, that when there are constant disturbances on the earth, that is an omen that some demoniac people have been born, or that the demoniac population has increased. In former days, there were only 2 demons, those born of Diti. Yet there were so many disturbances. At the present day, especially in this age of Kali, these disturbances are always visible, which indicates that the demoniac population has certainly increased. To check the increase of demoniac population, the Vedic civilization enacted so many rules and regulations of social life, the most important of which is the Garbhodhan process for begetting good children. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna informed Krishna that if there is unwanted population, Varna Sankar, the entire world will appear to be hell. People are very anxious for peace in the world, but there are so many unwanted children born without the benefit of the Garbhodhan ceremony, just like the demons born from Diti. Diti was so lusty that she forced her husband to copulate at the time which was inauspicious, and therefore the demons were born to create disturbances. In having sex life to beget children, one should observe the process for begetting nice children. If each and every householder and every family observes the Vedic system, then there are nice children, not demons, and automatically there is peace in the world. If we do not follow regulations in life for social tranquility, we cannot expect peace. Rather, we will have to undergo the stringent reactions of natural laws. But I have a question in this regard, because even Mahabhagavats, even Advaita Acharya himself, he had 3 children that were opposed to him and were they like atheists even? And he had 3 good children, but 3 bad ones. And how many children did Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur have? I mean, I haven't heard that many bad things about them, but I've only heard of 2 of them. And also Srila Prabhupada's own son, wasn't he? Srila Prabhupada's own son, wasn't he against also? He was trying to take over ISKCON, anyhow. So I'm not sure if it's just by Garbhodhan Samskar that it's assured that you're going to have good progeny. I don't know. That's, if anybody has answer to that, let me know. Tavadi taita sahasa vyajamanatma porusho vavritate shmasarena kayena dripati iva. These 2 demons who appeared in ancient times soon began to exhibit uncommon bodily features. They had steel-like frames which began to grow just like 2 great mountains. Purport. There are 2 classes of men in the world. One is called the demon, and the other is called the demigod. The demigods concern themselves with the spiritual upliftment of human society, whereas demons are concerned with physical and material upliftment. The 2 demons born of Diti began to make their bodies as strong as iron frames, and they were so tall that they seemed to touch outer space. They were decorated with valuable ornaments, and they thought that this was success in life. Originally, it was planned that Jaya and Vijay, the 2 doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, were to take birth in this material world, where, by the curse of the sages, they were to play the part of always being angry with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As demoniac persons, they became so angry that they were not concerned with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but simply with physical comforts and physical upliftment. Divis prasho hema kirita kotibir niruddha kashto spurarangada bhujo gam kampayanto charanai pade pade katya sukanchakam atita tastatu. Their bodies became so tall that they seemed to kiss the sky with the crests of their golden crowns. They blocked the view of all directions, and while walking, shook the earth at every step. Their arms were adorned with brilliant bracelets, and they stood as if covering the sun with their waist, which were bound with excellent and beautiful girdles. Purport. In the demoniac way of civilization, people are interested in getting a body constructed in such a way that when they walk on the street, the earth will tremble. And when they stand, it will appear that they cover the sun and the vision of the four directions. If a race appears strong in body, their country is materially considered to be among the highly advanced nations of the world. I don't know about saying. I shouldn't say that. Prajapatir namatayo akashir yapraksvate haryamayor ajayata tang vai hiranyakashipong vido praja yang tang harinyaksham asutta sagrata. Kashyapa Prajapati, the creator of the living entities, Kashyapa Prajapati, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin sons their names. The one who was born first he named Hiranyaksha, and the one who was first conceived by Diti he named Hiranyakashipu. Purport. There is an authoritative Vedic literature called Pinda Siddhi, in which the scientific understanding of pregnancy is very nicely described. It is stated that when the male secretion enters the menstrual flux in the uterus in 2 successive drops, the mother develops 2 embryos in her womb, and she brings forth twins in a reverse order so that in which they were first conceived. The child conceived first is born later, and the one conceived later is brought forth first. The first child conceived in the womb lives behind the second child. So when birth takes place, the second child appears first, and the first child appears second. In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who was behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. Neat. Chakre Hiranyakashipur Dorbhyam Brahma Varena Cha Vashesa Palalalo Kangstrin Akuta Mrityur Uttata. The elder child, Hiranyakashipu, was unafraid of death from anyone within the 3 worlds because he received a benediction from Lord Brahma. He was proud and puffed up due to this benediction and was able to bring all 3 planetary systems under his control. Purport. As will be revealed in later chapters, Hiranyakashipu underwent severe austerity and penance to satisfy Brahma and thus receive a benediction of immortality. Actually, it is impossible even for Lord Brahma to give anyone the benediction of becoming immortal. But indirectly, Hiranyakashipu received the benediction that no one within this material world would be able to kill him. In other words, because he originally came from the abode of Vaikuntha, he was not to be killed by anyone within this material world. The Lord desired to appear himself to kill him. One may be very proud of his material advancement in knowledge, but he cannot be immune to the 4 principles of material existence, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. It was the Lord's plan to teach people that even Hiranyakashipu, who was so powerful and strongly built, could not live more than his destined duration of life. One may become as strong and puffed up as Hiranyakashipu and bring under his control all the 3 worlds, but there is no possibility of continuing life eternally or keeping the conquered booty forever. So many emperors have ascended to power, and they are now lost in oblivion. That is the history of the world. Okay, booty means valuable stolen goods, especially those seized in war. Hiranyaksha nujastasya priya priti kridanvaham Gadapanir divangyata yuyutsur mrigayanranam. His younger brother, Hiranyaksha, was always ready to satisfy his elder brother by his activities. Hiranyaksha took a club on his shoulder and traveled all over the universe with a fighting spirit just to satisfy Hiranyakashipu. Purport: the demoniac spirit is to train all family members to exploit the resources of this universe for personal sense gratification, whereas the godly spirit is to engage everything in the service of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu was himself very powerful, and he made his younger brother, Hiranyaksha, powerful to assist him in fighting with everyone and lording it over the material nature as long as possible. If possible, he wanted to rule the universe eternally. These are demonstrations of the spirit of the demoniac living entity. Tam vikshadu sahajavam ranat kanchananupuram vajayantya srajadrushtam angsa nyasta mahagadam. Hiranyaksha's temper was difficult to control. He had anklets of gold tinkling about his feet. He was adorned with a gigantic garland, and he rested his huge mace on one of his shoulders. Manovirya virotsitam asrinyam akuto bhayam bhitamil nilire devas tarksha drasta ivahaya. His mental and bodily strength, as well as the boon conferred upon him, had made him proud. He feared death at the hands of no one, and there was no checking him. The gods, therefore, were seized with fear at his very sight, and they hid themselves, even as snakes hide themselves for fear of Garuda. Purport: the Asuras are generally strongly built, as described here, and therefore their mental condition is very sound, and their prowess is also extraordinary. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, having received the boon that they would not be killed by any other living entity within this universe, were almost immortal, and thus they were completely fearless. Savaitiro hitan drishtva mahasa sena daitarat sendran deva ganang shiban apashyan vyanatad brisham. On not finding Indra and the other demigods, who had previously been intoxicated with power, the chief of the Daitas, seeing that they had all vanished before his might, roared loudly. Tato nivritta kredeshan gambiram bimanisvanam vijagahe mahasatva vartim matta iva dipa. After returning from the heavenly kingdom, the mighty demon, who was like an elephant in wrath, for the sake of sport, dived into the deep ocean, which was roaring terribly. Tasmin pravrishte varunasya sainika yado ganasanna diya sasadhvasa ahanyamana apitasya varchasa pradharshita dhurataram pradhurtruvu. On his entering the ocean, the aquatic animals who formed the host of Varuna were stricken with fear and ran far away. Thus Hiranyaksha showed his splendor without dealing a blow. Purport: materialistic demons sometimes appear to be very powerful and are seen to establish their supremacy throughout the world. Here also it appears that Hiranyaksha, by his demoniac strength, actually established his supremacy throughout the universe, and the demigods were afraid of his uncommon power. Not only were the demigods in space afraid of the demons Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, but so also were the aquatic animals within the sea. Savarsha punganu dado mahabalash charan mahormin chvasaneritan mahu morvya bhijagne kadaya vibhavarin asse divang tata purim prachetasa. Moving about the ocean for many, many years, the mighty Hiranyaksha smote the gigantic wind-tossed waves, again and again with his iron mace, and reached Vibhavari, the capital of Varuna. What's smote mean? Okay, it's the past form of smite. Oh, no, never mind. It means, yeah, strike with a firm blow. Okay. Purport. Varuna is supposed to be the predominating deity of the waters, and his capital, which is known as Vibhavari, is within the watery kingdom. Tratropalabhyasuralokapalakam yadoganam yadogananam rishabham prachetasam smayan pralabdhum pranipatyani chavach jagadamede yadiraja sangyukam. Vibhavari is the home of Varuna, the lord of the aquatic creatures and guardian of the lower regions of the universe, where the demigods generally reside. There Hiranyaksha fell at Varuna's feet like a low-born man, and to make fun of him, he said with a smile, "Give me battle, O Supreme Lord." Purport. The demoniac person always challenges others and tries to occupy others' property by force. Here these symptoms are fully displayed by Hiranyaksha, who begged war from a person who had no desire to fight. Tam lokapalo dipatir brihatrava viryapaho durmadaviramanina Vijittaloke kilataita danavan yadrajasuyena purayajat prabho. You are the guardian of an entire spear and a ruler of wide fame. Having crushed the might of arrogant and conceited warriors, and having conquered all the Daitas and Danavas in the world, you once performed a Rajasuya sacrifice to the Lord. Sa evam utsikta madena vidvisha dridam pralabdho bhagavan apampati rosham samutam shamayan swayatiya vyavocharango pashamam gata svayam. Thus mocked by an enemy whose vanity knew no bounds, the worshipful Lord of the waters waxed angry, but by dint of his reason, he managed to curb his anger that had sprung up in him. And he replied, "O dear one, we have now desisted from warfare, having grown too old for combat." Purport. As we see, warmongering materialists always create fighting without reason. That's for sure. Pashyamim nanyam purushat puratanad yasangyuge tvam ranamargako vidam aradhayashyata surarshabhehitam manasvinoyam grinate bhavadrisha. You are so skilled in war that I do not see anyone else but the most ancient person, Lord Vishnu, who can give satisfaction in battle to you. Therefore, O chief of the Asuras, approach him, who even heroes like you mention with praise. Purport. Aggressive materialistic warriors are actually punished by the Supreme Lord for their policy of unnecessarily disturbing world peace. Therefore, Varuna advised Hiranyaksha that the right course to satisfy his fighting spirit would be to seek to fight with Vishnu. Tam viramarada vipadya vismaya sayesha sevira shayeshva birvrata yastad vidanam asatang prashantaye rupani dhatte saranugrahechaya. Varuna continued, "On reaching him, you will be rid of your pride at once, and will lie down at the field of battle, surrounded by dogs for eternal sleep. It is in order to exterminate wicked fellows like you, and to show his grace to the virtuous, that he assumes his various incarnations, like Varaha. Purport. Asuras do not know that their bodies consist of 5 elements of material nature, and that when they fall, they become objects of pastimes for dogs and vultures. Varuna advised Hiranyaksha to meet Vishnu in his boar incarnation, so that his hankering for aggressive war would be satisfied, and his powerful body would be vanquished. He's tough stuff, huh? He's not afraid to speak to Hiranyaksha like that. What time is it now? It is 7:43. Okay, so let's do 15 minutes of chapter 18. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 17th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Victory of Hiranyaksha over all the directions of the universe. Now, chapter 18, the battle between Lord Boar and the demon Hiranyaksha. Maitreya Uvacha Tarevam Akarnya Jalisha Bhashitam Mahamanastar Viganaya Durmada Harer Viditva Gatimanganaradar Rasatalam Nir Vivishre Tvaranvita. Maitreya continued. The proud and falsely glorious Daita paid little heed to the words of Varuna. Oh, dear Vidura, he learned from Narad that the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of he learned from Narad the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and hurriedly betook himself to the depths of the ocean. Betook. I just want to. Betook is go to. He went to. I shall betake myself to my room. Wow, English is so interesting. Purport. Materialistic warmongers are not even afraid to fight with their mightiest enemy, the personality of Godhead. The demon was very encouraged to learn from Varuna that there was one fighter who could actually combat him, and he was very enthusiastic to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just to give him a fight, even though it was predicted by Varuna that by fighting with Vishnu, he would become prey for the dogs, jackals, and vultures. Since demoniac persons are less intelligent, they dare to fight with Vishnu, who is known as Ajita, or one who has never been conquered. Tadarsha tatra bhijitam dharadharam proniyamana vanimagratangstraya mushnantam akshna swaruchorunashriya jahasachaho vanagocharo mriga. He saw there the all-powerful personality of Godhead in his boar incarnation, bearing the earth upward on the ends of his tusks, and robbing him of his splendor with his reddish eyes. The demon laughed. Oh, an amphibious beast! Oh, an amphibious beast. In a previous chapter, we have discussed the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Varaha, the boar. While Varaha, with his tusks, engaged in uplifting the submerged earth from the depths of the waters, this great demon Hiranyaksha met him and challenged him, calling him a beast. Demons cannot understand the incarnations of the Lord. They think that his incarnations as a fish or a boar or a tortoise are big beasts only. They misunderstand the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even in his human form, and they deride his descent. In the Chaitanya Sampradaya, there is sometimes a demoniac misconception about the descendant of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu's body is spiritual, but demoniac persons consider the body of the Supreme Personality to be material, just like ours. Avajananti mam murda. Persons who have no intelligence deride the transcendental form of the Lord as material. Ahainame hyagya mahim vimunchano rausokasam vishva srijeya marpita nasvasti yasyasyanaya mamikshata surathamasa ditatsukkarakrite. The demon addressed the Lord, "O best of the demigods, dressed in the form of a boar, just hear me. This earth is entrusted to us, the inhabitants of the lower regions, and you cannot take it from my presence and not be hurt by me." Purport. Sridhar Swami, commenting on this verse, states that although the demon wanted to deride the personality of Godhead in the form of a boar, actually he worshipped him in several words. For example, he addressed him as Vana Gochara, which means one who is a resident of the forest. But another meaning of Vana Gochara is one who lies on the water. Vishnu lies on the water, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be properly addressed in this way. The demon also addressed him as Mrika, indicating unintentionally that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sought after by great sages, saintly persons, and transcendentalists. He also addressed him as Agya. Sridhar Swami says that Gya means knowledge, and there is no knowledge which is unknown to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indirectly, therefore, the demon said that Vishnu knows everything. The demon addressed him as Suradhama. Sura means the demigods, and Adham means the Lord of all there is. He is the Lord of all the demigods, therefore he is the best of all demigods, or God. When the demon used the phrase, "in my presence," the implied meaning was, "in spite of my presence, you are completely able to take away the earth." Nasvasti yasyasi. Unless you kindly take this earth from our custody, there could be no good fortune for us. He's saying the opposite of what he intended. Sanskrit. Anjali, what is the controversy of the Lord Nityananda's descendants? I don't know the details of that, so I can't really comment so much, but I just know that we like Jati Gosai, we're not, that's like one of the upper sampradayas, is the Jati Gosai. Those who are born, like they consider that everyone born in the different descendants coming from the associates of Mahaprabhu are all pure like their ancestors, and so people worship them. Like there's a Nityananda Sampradaya, and people like worship this descendant of Nityananda, like as being Nityananda himself. They worship him, and but for no reason, just for taking birth in that lineage. Tamna sappathanar abhavaya kimbrito yo maya hanta suran parokshajit tam yoga maya balamalpa purusham samstapya murda brahmrije surich chucha. You rascal, you have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. O fool, your power is only mystic, so today I shall enliven my kinsmen by killing you. The demon used the word abhavaya, which means for killing. Sridhar Swami comments that this killing means liberating, or in other words, killing the process of continued birth and death. The Lord kills the process of birth and death and keeps himself invisible. The activities of the Lord's internal potency are inconceivable, but by a slight exhibition of this potency, the Lord, by his grace, can deliver one from nescience. It means miseries. The miseries of material existence can be extinguished by the Lord by his potential energy of internal yoga maya. In the Upanishads, Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.8, it is stated, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. The Lord is invisible to the eyes of the common man, but his energies act in various ways. When demons are in adversity, they think that God is hiding himself and is working by his mystic potency. They think that if they can find God, they can kill him just by seeing him. Hiranyaksha thought that way, and he challenged the Lord. You have done tremendous harm to our community by taking the part of the demigods, and you have killed our kinsmen in so many ways, always keeping yourself hidden. Now I see you face to face, and I am not going to let you go. I shall kill you and save my kinsmen from your mystic misdeeds. Not only are demons always anxious to kill God with words and philosophy, but they think that if one is materially powerful, he can kill God with materially fatal weapons. Demons like Kamsa, Ravan, and Hiranyakashipu thought themselves powerful enough to kill even God. Demons cannot understand that God, by his multifarious potencies, can work so wonderfully that he can be present everywhere and still remain in his eternal abode, Goloka Vrindavan. Tai sangstite gadaya shirna shirshanya smadbhujachyutayadye chatubhyam balem harantrishayo ye chadeva swayam sarvena bhavishantyamula. The demon continued, when you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer you oblations and sacrifice and devotional service will also automatically cease to exist, like trees without roots. Purport. Demons are very much disturbed when the devotees worship the Lord in the prescribed ways recommended in the scriptures. In the Vedic scriptures, the neophyte devotees are advised to engage in 9 kinds of devotional service, such as to hear and chant the holy name of God, to remember him always, to chant on beads Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, to worship the Lord in the form of his deity incarnation in temples, and to engage in various activities of Krishna consciousness to increase the number of godly persons for perfect peace in the world. Demons do not like such activity. They are always envious of God and his devotees. Their propaganda not to worship in the temple or church, but simply to make material advancement for the satisfaction of the senses is always current. The demon Hiranyaksha, upon seeing the Lord face to face, wanted to make a permanent solution by killing the personality of Godhead with his powerful mace. The example of an uprooted tree mentioned here by the demon is very significant. Devotees accept that God is the root of everything. Their example is that just as the stomach is the source of energy for all the limbs of the body, God is the original source of all energy manifested in the material and spiritual worlds. Therefore, as supplying food to the stomach is the process to satisfy all the limbs of the body, Krishna consciousness, or developing love of Krishna, is a sublime method for satisfying the source of all happiness. The demon wants to uproot the source because if the root, God, were to be checked, the activities of the Lord and the devotees would automatically stop. The demon would be very much satisfied by such a situation in society. Demons are always anxious to have a godless society for their sense gratification. According to Sridhar Swami, this verse means that when the demon would be deprived of his mace by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only the neophyte devotees, but also the ancient sagacious devotees of the Lord would be very much satisfied. Satudyamanori. What time is it? Okay, we have like 3 more minutes. So I'll just read. Let's see. I'll read this verse and stop. Satudyamanori duruktatomare dangstragragam gam upalakshabhitam todam rishaniragad ampumadyad grahag hatak sakarinur yatebha. Although the Lord was pained by the shaft-like abusive words of the demon, he bore the pain. but seeing that the earth on the ends of his tusks was frightened, he rose out of the water just as an elephant emerges with its female companion when assailed by an alligator. Purport. The Mayavadi philosopher cannot understand that the Lord has feelings. The Lord is satisfied if someone offers him a nice prayer, and similarly, if someone decries his existence or calls him by ill names, God is dissatisfied. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is decried by the Mayavadi philosophers, who are almost demons. They say that God has no head, no form, no existence, and no legs, hands, or other bodily limbs. In other words, they say that he is dead or lame. All these misconceptions of the Supreme Lord are a source of dissatisfaction to him, and he is never pleased with such atheistic descriptions. In this case, although the Lord has felt sorrow from the piercing words of the demon, he delivered the earth for the satisfaction of the demigods, who are ever his devotees. The conclusion is that God is as sentient as we are. He is satisfied by our prayers and dissatisfied by our harsh words against him. In order to give him protection to his devotee, he is always ready to tolerate insulting words from the atheists. Okay, there's still a couple minutes. So let me just read, because I wanted to try to get up to 8, so I think we have enough time. Tangni sarantam salilaranudruto Hiranyaksa dviradam yata chasha Karala dangstro shaninis vano pravid Gata hriyankim tvasatam vikaritam. The demon, who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusks, gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant. Roaring like thunder, he said, "Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures." Purport. When the Lord was coming out of the water, taking the earth in his arms to deliver it.
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay, now it's 8 o'clock. The demon derided him with insulting words, but the Lord did not care because he was very conscious of his duty. For a dutiful man, there is nothing to fear. Similarly, those who are powerful have no fear of derision or unkind words from an enemy. The Lord had nothing to fear from anyone, yet he was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. Although apparently he fled from the challenge, it was just to protect the earth from calamity that he tolerated Hiranyaksha's deriding words. Can I just read this one last purport and then we've read up to my goal, like the part I was... Yeah, it'll take 1 minute. Sagam udastat silalasya gochare vinyasatasya adhadat swasatvam abhishtuto vishvasrija prasonar apuryamano vibudai pashatore. The Lord placed the earth within his sight on the surface of the water and transferred her to his own energy in the form of the ability to float on the water. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. While the enemy stood looking on, Brahma, the creator of the universe, extolled the Lord, and the other demigods rained flowers on him. Purport. Those who are demons cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead floated the earth on water. But to the devotees of the Lord, this was not a very wonderful act. Not only the earth, but many, many millions of planets are floating in the air, and this floating power is endowed upon them by the Lord. There is no other possible explanation. The materialist can explain that the planets are floating by the law of gravitation, but the law of gravitation works under the control or direction of the Supreme Lord. That is the version of the Bhagavad Gita, which confirms by the Lord's statement that behind the material laws are nature's laws, and behind the growth, maintenance, and production, and evolution of all the planetary systems, behind everything is the Lord's direction. The Lord's activities could be appreciated only by the demigods headed by Brahma, and therefore when they saw the uncommon prowess of the Lord in keeping the earth on the surface of the water, They showered flowers on him in appreciation of his transcendental activity. So we will hear what goes on next. I think the Lord speaks to him, and then the battle ensues. We'll read all about that tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Giridhari, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai, Nitil Vishnu Vishnupar, Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shila Gurudeva ki jai, Nitil Vishnu Vishnupar, Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai, Nitil Vishnu Vishnupar, Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupar, Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupar, Ashtatara Shata Shishimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Maha-Bhagavat Shila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nugauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shikshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharati Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Varahadev ki jai. Shri Lakshmi Varahadev ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyaya Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashcha Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandava Pranams. So tomorrow is, let me just see, I'm just looking at the calendar, I think it is the disappearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami, and also the disappearance day of Srila Jagadish Pandit. So maybe, let's see, how much more is left in this chapter. Anyhow, it's not, maybe we have enough time to read, yeah, it's not way too long. So maybe we have enough time to read about the battle of Hiranyaksa and Varahadeva, and then after read a little bit about Jiva Goswami. So, okay, Hari Bol. Thanks for joining me. See you all tomorrow.